The lecture hall was filled with students from many different planets. They sat in rows waiting for class to begin. Some had fur, some had scales, and some looked like they were made of light. Danny Cooper sat near the back. He was one of only 3 humans in the entire academy. His large frame made him stand out among the smaller alien students. Next to Danny sat a small furry creature named Piplo. She was a Grexian, about the size of a house cat back on Earth. Her big round eyes moved constantly, looking around the room. Her species came from prey animals, creatures that were always hunted on their home planet. Even now, thousands of years after they became smart and built cities, they still felt afraid very easily. The professor walked to the front of the room. His name was Vexnar, and he looked like a giant insect made of crystal. He was very tall, with multiple arms and eyes that could look in different directions at once. When he spoke, a small device on his chest changed his clicking sounds into words everyone could understand. "Good morning, students," Vexnar said. "Today we will learn about predator recognition. Most species in this room evolved from prey animals. Your ancestors lived by running away from danger. They survived because they could recognize threats very quickly. Today we will test those old instincts." Piplo started shaking. Other students shifted nervously in their seats. A group of reptile-like Quilnari students puffed up the frills around their necks. This was what they did when scared. The Delthans, who were beings made of gas living inside special suits, made their lights dim. Danny just sat there, curious about what would happen next. He didn't feel scared at all. "Do not worry," the professor continued. "What we will show you is safe. The creatures are babies. They have been fed. They will not hurt you, but your bodies will react anyway. This is what we want to study." 2 teaching assistants pushed a large container into the room. It had clear walls so everyone could see inside. Dark shapes moved back and forth in the container. Low growling sounds came from inside. Even through the walls, students could hear the scratch of claws on metal. "These are Karathi cubs," Vexnar explained. "On their home planet, adult Karathi are the top hunters. Nothing hunts them. They hunt everything else. They work in groups like wolves on Earth. They have sharp claws that fold back into their paws. They can kill animals 3 times their size. These cubs are only 2 months old, but their hunting instincts are already working perfectly." More students started to look worried. Piplo grabbed onto Danny's arm with her tiny paws. She was shaking even harder now. "Professor, are you sure this is safe?" asked Kelvin Morris. He was another human student sitting a few rows ahead of Danny. "Yes, completely safe. The cubs have been raised around many species. They are used to people. They will not attack. But they are still predators. Your instincts will know this. Some of you may want to run. This is normal. This is what kept your ancestors alive." Vexnar moved to the container and pressed a button. The door slid open with a soft hiss. 6 Karathi cubs tumbled out onto the floor. They looked like a mix between cats and bears. Their fur was dark, almost black, and very thick. Their paws were too big for their bodies. They had sharp little teeth that showed when they opened their mouths. Their eyes were bright and smart, positioned on the front of their faces for hunting. For a moment, the cubs just sat there, sniffing the air and looking around. Then they started to move into the classroom. Everything went crazy. Students jumped up from their seats. Some climbed on top of their desks. Others pressed themselves against the walls, trying to get as far from the cubs as possible. The Quilnari students hissed loudly. Several Grexians squeaked in terror. One Delthan suit made alarm sounds. The cubs looked confused. They tilted their heads, watching all the strange reactions. One cub walked toward a frozen Grexian student. The small creature couldn't move, locked in place by fear. The cub sniffed the student carefully, then walked away, apparently not interested. Another cub found a pen on the floor. It batted the pen with its paw, playing with it like a toy. The cub pounced on the pen, rolled over, and chased it under a desk. Danny watched all of this with a smile. The cubs were actually really cute. Yes, they had sharp teeth and claws. Yes, they moved like hunters. But they were still babies. They were clumsy and playful and curious about everything. One cub noticed Danny. It stopped and stared at him. Unlike every other student in the room, Danny was calm. He wasn't running. He wasn't making scared sounds. He didn't smell like fear. The cub walked slowly toward Danny's desk. It moved carefully, like it wasn't sure what to think about this strange tall creature. When it got close, it sat down and looked up at Danny with its head tilted. Danny slowly reached down with his hand. keeping his palm flat and relaxed. The cub sniffed his fingers. Its nose was cold and wet, just like a dog's nose. After a moment, the cub made a happy sound, somewhere between a purr and a chirp. It rubbed its head against Danny's hand. "Well, that's interesting," Professor Vexnar said quietly. Danny scratched gently behind the cub's ear. The little creature made more happy sounds. One of its back legs started thumping against the floor. "They really are cute," Danny said to no one in particular. Around the room, the other cubs had gotten bored with scaring students. One was trying to climb up a desk leg. Another had found someone's lunch and was sniffing the container. A third had discovered that its own tail was fun to chase. But 3 more cubs had noticed something interesting about Danny. They left what they were doing and walked over to investigate. They sniffed him carefully, making soft questioning sounds to each other. "Mr. Cooper, please stay very still," Vexnar said. His voice was sharp with surprise. "Your reaction is not normal. This should not be happening." "I'm not doing anything special," Danny said. "They're just baby animals. Look at them." One of the cubs, braver than the others, jumped up onto Danny's desk. It walked across his keyboard, stepping on keys and making the screen show random letters. Its tail was straight up in the air, showing it was happy and confident. Then the cub stepped right onto Danny's lap. The cub turned in a circle, then another circle, looking for the perfect spot. Finally, it lay down with a big sigh, like this was exactly where it wanted to be. 2 more cubs saw this and decided it looked comfortable. They climbed up onto Danny, too. One settled on his other leg. Another curled up against his chest. Within a minute, Danny had 4 Karathi cubs sleeping on him. They were purring softly, a deep rumbling sound that made Danny think of the cats he had back home on Earth. The entire classroom went completely silent. Every student and the professor just stared. Piplo slowly came out from behind Danny's shoulder where she had been hiding. "Why do they like you?" she whispered, her voice tiny and confused. Danny shrugged very carefully, trying not to wake the cubs. "I don't know. Maybe they can tell I think they're cute." Professor Vexnar moved closer, his many eyes blinking rapidly. This was how his species looked when they were very confused or surprised. "This is impossible," he said softly. "Karathi cubs are predators. Young predators are usually very careful. They do not trust unknown species, especially not on first meeting. They should not be sleeping on you. They should not trust you this much." Kelvin stood up and walked over to see better. "Maybe it's because we're human," he suggested. "Explain," Vexnar demanded. "Well, on Earth we have pets, dogs and cats. We keep them in our homes. These cubs kind of look like a mix of both." The professor's translator made a strange sound, like it was struggling with the words. "You keep predators in your homes? By choice?" "Sure," Kelvin said. "Dogs came from wolves. They're pack hunters, really dangerous in the wild. But we made friends with them thousands of years ago. Now they live with us. They're part of our families." Vexnar stood very still, all of his eyes focused on Kelvin. "You brought wolves into your living spaces? Wolves are predators, yes?" "Yeah, top predators. But they're also loyal and smart and friendly. At least dogs are. We change them over time by being nice to the friendly ones." Another human student, Lisa Grant, spoke up. "Cats, too. We didn't really domesticate cats. They kind of domesticated themselves. They started living near our farms because our stored grain attracted mice. We let them stay because they ate the mice. After a long time, they became pets," Danny added. "I have 2 cats and a dog back home. I really miss them. These little guys remind me of my pets." One of the cubs must have heard something in Danny's voice. It nuzzled deeper into his arm and made a small, happy sound in its sleep. The professor's translator made that strange sound again. "You are saying that humans live with multiple species of predators? And you do this willingly?" "Well, yeah," Danny said. "Doesn't everyone?" "No," Vexnar said flatly. "No species does this. This is not normal behavior." The cubs continued sleeping peacefully on Danny, while the classroom buzzed with confused conversations. Students whispered to each other in dozens of different languages. The translation devices tried their best to keep up with all the talking. Professor Vexnar called for quiet. His voice was firm, but he still sounded puzzled. "Let us think about this carefully. Mr. Cooper, Mr. Morris, Miss Grant, please help me understand. You say humans keep predators as pets?" "Yes," Lisa said. She pushed her glasses up on her nose. "It's very common. Almost every human family has at least one pet, sometimes more. Describe these wolves you mentioned, the professor said. Kelvin thought for a moment. Wolves are pack hunters. They have sharp teeth and strong jaws. They can run for a long time without getting tired. They work together to bring down animals bigger than themselves. They're very smart and very loyal to their pack. And you brought these creatures into your homes? A Quilnari student asked, her voice high with disbelief. Not exactly, Danny explained, being careful not to disturb the sleeping cubs. The theory is that wolves started coming near human camps a long time ago. They wanted our leftover food. The wolves that were friendlier got more food from us. Over many generations, they changed. They became dogs. Now dogs are completely different from wolves. They love humans. They protect us. They're our companions. How long ago did this happen? Vexnar asked. Maybe 15,000 years ago, Lisa said. Maybe more. We're not completely sure. Piplo spoke up from her spot next to Danny. Her voice was still shaky, but she was curious now instead of just scared. And cats? How did you domesticate cats? We didn't really, Lisa explained. Cats are more independent. About 10,000 years ago, humans started farming. We stored grain in big buildings. The grain attracted mice and rats. Wild cats came to hunt the mice. We realized the cats were helpful, so we let them stay. Over time, they got more comfortable around us. But cats never became as attached to humans as dogs did. They're still pretty independent. I don't understand, said a Delthan student. Why would predators want to be near humans? Predators are supposed to be afraid of other predators. They compete for food and territory. Danny looked down at the cubs on his lap. Maybe we didn't seem like competition. Humans were hunting different things than wolves, and we had fire, which scared most animals. Maybe the wolves figured out that being near us was safer and easier than hunting alone. But humans are not predators, Vexnar said firmly. I have studied human biology. You have no claws, no fangs, no armor or poison. Your bodies are soft. You are clearly prey animals. Actually, Lisa said slowly, humans are predators. We're persistence hunters. The room went very quiet. Even the students who had been whispering stopped talking. Explain this, Vexnar demanded. Lisa stood up so everyone could see her. Human ancestors hunted by chasing prey for very long distances. We can't run as fast as most animals, but we can run for hours and hours without stopping. We would chase an animal until it was too tired to run anymore. Then we would kill it. That's terrifying, Piplo squeaked. It was effective, Lisa continued. Humans can run in hot weather better than almost any other animal. We sweat to cool down. Most animals have to stop running when they get too hot, but humans can keep going. We would track wounded animals for days if we had to. We wouldn't give up, Kelvin added. Plus, we had tools and weapons, spears, bows and arrows, traps. We used our brains to make up for not having claws or big teeth. And we worked in groups. Human hunters would coordinate their attacks. Some would chase the animal toward others who were hiding. We used strategy. Our eyes face forward, Danny said, pointing to his own face. That's for judging distance when hunting. And we have these. He held up his hand, being careful not to wake the cubs.
Hands that can grip and throw?
We can throw rocks and spears really accurately. No other animal can throw like humans can. A Grexian student made a scared sound. But you seem so nice and friendly. You help other students. You share your food. You smile a lot. Being a predator doesn't mean being mean, Danny explained. Humans are social. We work together. We had to, because we couldn't hunt big animals alone. So we developed really strong social bonds. We care about our group. We help each other. That's how we survived. And this is why you befriend other predators, Vexnar said slowly, understanding starting to show in his voice. You see wolves and cats as potential pack members, not as threats. I guess so, Danny said. I never really thought about it that way. But yeah, maybe. Dogs especially became part of our packs. We hunt together, live together, protect each other. It's natural for us. Lisa pulled out her datapad and showed some pictures to the class. Look, these are dogs. All different sizes and shapes. This tiny one weighs 2 pounds. This big one weighs 200 pounds. We bred them for different jobs. Some for hunting, some for guarding, some just for company. The pictures showed dogs of every type. Tiny dogs that could fit in a pocket. Huge dogs as big as small ponies. Dogs with long fur and short fur, pointed ears and floppy ears. Long noses and flat faces. They all came from wolves? A student asked in amazement. Yes. All of them. We changed them by choosing which ones had puppies. The friendly ones, the ones that were good at the jobs we needed, those were the ones that had babies. After hundreds of generations, we got all these different types. This is how humans think, Vexnar said quietly. You do not just adapt to your environment. You change it. You change other species to suit your needs. When you say it like that, it sounds kind of scary, Kelvin admitted. But we didn't hurt the wolves or dogs. We made their lives better too. They got regular food, safe places to sleep, and medical care. Dogs live longer and better with humans than wolves do in the wild. One of the cubs on Danny's lap shifted and yawned, showing its tiny, sharp teeth. Then it settled back down and continued sleeping. The cubs trust you completely, Vexnar observed. They feel safe with you. This is what I cannot understand. Karathi cubs are taught to be careful of unknown species, yet they treat you like family. Maybe they recognize something, Lisa suggested. Maybe humans smell like predators to them, or maybe they can sense that we're not afraid, so they know we're not prey. Prey animals are afraid, Piplo said quietly. I was so scared when the cubs came out. I wanted to run. My whole body told me to run, but humans didn't react that way. You weren't afraid at all. They're just babies, Danny said. Why would I be afraid of babies? They're not dangerous. They're just curious and playful. But they could hurt you, Piplo insisted. They have claws and teeth. So do cats, Danny pointed out. My cats back home have claws and teeth. Sometimes they scratch me by accident when we're playing. It's not a big deal. I know they don't mean to hurt me. Vexnar began clicking his mandibles rapidly. This was what his species did when thinking hard about something. I believe I'm beginning to understand. Humans do not have the prey animal fear response. You do not instinctively fear predators because you are predators yourselves. That makes sense, Kelvin said. I mean, we respect dangerous animals. We're careful around them, but we're not terrified the way prey species are. We think about whether something is actually a threat in this moment, not just whether it could be a threat. These cubs are not a threat right now, Danny said. They're fed, they're tired, and they're in a safe place. So they're just acting like sleepy babies. Any baby animal acts basically the same. They eat, they play, they sleep. That's what babies do, Lisa nodded. And humans have a really strong response to baby animals. We think they're cute. We want to protect them and take care of them. It doesn't matter if they're human babies or other species. If it has big eyes and acts helpless, we want to help it. Even if it's a predator, asked a Kilnari student. Especially if it's a predator, Danny said with a smile. Some of the most popular pets on Earth are predators. Cats, dogs, ferrets, snakes, lizards, even birds of prey. Humans keep all kinds of predators as pets. Your world must be very strange, Piplo said. Earth is pretty normal to us, Kelvin replied. But yeah, I guess compared to other planets, it's different. Earth has a lot of predators. In the oceans, on land, in the air, humans had to compete with all of them. Maybe that's why we learned to work with predators instead of just fighting them. The cubs slept on, completely comfortable and safe. Around the room, prey species students looked at the humans with new eyes. These friendly, helpful classmates were predators. Top predators from a dangerous world. Yet they chose cooperation over competition. They chose to make friends instead of enemies. Professor Vexnar looked at his class and then at the sleeping cubs on Danny. I think, he said slowly, that we need to reconsider what we know about humans. This changes everything. News of what happened in Professor Vexnar's class spread through the academy very quickly. By the next morning, everyone was talking about it. The video of Danny covered in sleeping Karathi cubs had been shared thousands of times on the Galactic Network. Students from all over the academy came to stare at the three humans as they walked through the halls. Danny found it uncomfortable. He didn't like being the center of attention, but everywhere he went, students pointed and whispered. Some looked scared. Others looked curious. A few brave ones came up to ask questions. Is it true you keep predators in your homes? A young Grexian student asked nervously. Yes, Danny answered simply. Dogs and cats mostly. They're nice. The student's eyes went wide and she scurried away. By afternoon, Danny, Kelvin, and Lisa had been called to meet with the Academy Council. This was a big deal. The council only met for important matters. They walked into a huge chamber filled with representatives from dozens of worlds. Every seat was taken. Everyone wanted to hear what the humans had to say. Professor Vexnar stood at the center of the chamber. He had brought his research notes and several displays showing human biology and behavior. The Karathi cubs, who seemed to have bonded permanently with Danny, sat in a special carrier at his feet. They cried softly whenever Danny moved too far away. Honored council members, Vexnar began, I have made a significant discovery. Humanity has been incorrectly classified. They are not prey animals. They are predators. The chamber filled with gasps and worried sounds. Council members shifted in their seats. Several started talking at once until the council leader, an ancient Quilnari named Elder Vix, called for order. This is a serious claim, Professor, Elder Vix said. Please provide evidence. Vexnar brought up images of human anatomy on the large display screen. First, observe the eyes. They face forward, providing binocular vision. This is a predatory adaptation for judging distance when hunting. Prey animals have eyes on the sides of their heads to watch for danger from all directions. He brought up more images. Second, the hands. Humans have opposable thumbs and excellent grip strength. These hands are not for climbing or gathering. They are for holding weapons and tools. For throwing projectiles with deadly accuracy. No other Earth species can throw as well as humans. Third, the teeth. A diagram of a human skull appeared. Notice the canine teeth designed for tearing meat. The molars for grinding. This is an omnivore's mouth, yes, but one adapted to include significant amounts of meat in the diet. A Delthan council member spoke up. But Professor, humans have no claws, no natural weapons, no armor. How can they be predators? Lisa stepped forward. May I answer that? Elder Vix nodded permission. Humans are persistence hunters, Lisa explained. We don't need to be fast or strong. We use endurance. We can run for hours without stopping. We sweat to cool down, which means we can run in heat that would kill most animals. We would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then we would finish it with weapons. She pulled up a map of Earth on the display. Humans spread across this entire planet. Every climate, every environment. Arctic ice, tropical jungles, high mountains, deep deserts. We adapted to all of it. We're one of the most adaptable species Earth has ever produced. And we hunted in groups, Kelvin added. Human hunters would coordinate. We would plan strategies. Some would chase the prey toward others, waiting and hiding. We used our intelligence to make up for physical limitations. We made traps, weapons, and tools. We used fire. We changed the environment to help us hunt, Vexnar continued. Most importantly, humans form pack bonds with other predators. This is unprecedented in the galactic community. They domesticated wolves, turning them into dogs. They semi-domesticated cats. They keep these predators in their living spaces, forming deep emotional connections with them. The cubs, Elder Vix said, looking at the carrier by Danny's feet. They bonded with the human immediately. Explain this. The cubs recognize something in humans, Vexnar said. Something that prey species do not have. Karathi cubs are predators with strong instincts. They can sense fear. Prey species produce fear pheromones that the cubs detect. But humans produce no such signals. To the cubs, humans smell like safe adults of a similar predatory species. Danny spoke for the first time. If I may say something. Elder Vix looked at him with her large reptilian eyes. Speak, young human. I think everyone is getting worried for no good reason, Danny said. Yes, humans evolved as hunters. Yes, we're predators. But that was a long time ago. We don't hunt for survival anymore. We farm our food. We have laws against violence. We value peace and cooperation. Being a predator is just how we evolved. It doesn't define who we are now. But you come from a death world, a council member said accusingly. The room went very quiet. Everyone knew what death worlds were. They were the most dangerous planets where survival required being tough, smart, and often violent. Who told you that? Kelvin asked. It is in the files, the council member replied. Earth is classified as a Class 7 death world, one of the most dangerous categories, Lisa sighed. Yes, Earth is dangerous. We have hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions. We have droughts and floods and wildfires. We have poisonous plants and venomous animals. We have predators on land and in the sea and in the air. But that's just Earth, Danny said. To us, it's home. It's beautiful. Yes, it's dangerous sometimes. But it's also full of life. Every environment has thousands of species. We learn to live with all of it. And this is why you are such effective predators, Vexnar said. Death worlds create species that are tough and adaptable. You had to be smart to survive. You had to work together. You had to be able to handle any threat. Elder Vix leaned forward. Tell me, young humans, should we be afraid of you? Danny thought carefully before answering. This was important. What he said next would affect how the entire galaxy saw humanity. No, he said finally. You shouldn't be afraid. Yes, we evolved as predators on a dangerous world. Yes, we have instincts and abilities that most species here don't have. But humans chose a long time ago to be more than just our instincts. We built civilizations based on laws and ethics. We created art and music and stories. We value life, all life, not just human life. He gestured to the carrier with the cubs. Look at these little ones. Yes, they're predators. When they grow up, they'll be dangerous hunters. But right now, they're just babies who needed to feel safe. Humans have spent thousands of years learning to live peacefully with other predators. We did it with wolves and cats. We can do it with any species if we try. Lisa nodded. Humans are really good at making friends. It's one of our survival traits. We form strong social bonds. We're loyal to our pack, and our pack can include anyone we care about. It doesn't matter if they're human or not. If you're our friend, we'll protect you and help you. This is why the cubs trust the human, Vexnar explained. Predators recognize pack behavior. The cubs sensed that humans are pack animals. They sensed safety and acceptance. For a young predator, finding a safe pack is the most important thing. Kelvin spoke up. I think humans can actually help the galactic community. Most species here evolved as prey animals. You're naturally nervous around predators. But humans understand predators. We speak their language, so to speak. We can be translators between predator and prey species. You want to be mediators? Elder Vix asked. Why not? Kelvin replied. Humans don't see predators as automatic enemies. We see them as potential friends. Maybe we can help other species understand each other better. A Karathi adult stood up from where he had been sitting quietly in the back. He was huge, easily 8 feet tall, with muscles rippling under his dark fur. Several council members flinched away from him instinctively. I am Veltor, representative of the Karathi people, he said in a deep, growling voice. I wish to speak. Elder Vix nodded nervously. Please do. My people have always been isolated in the galactic community, Veltor said. Others fear us. They see only teeth and claws. They do not see our art, our philosophy, our love of family. We are lonely, always treated as dangerous first and people second. He looked at Danny. This human sees my cubs and thinks they are cute, not dangerous, not frightening. Just young ones who need care. This is the first time another species has reacted to Karathi this way. We understand predators, Danny said simply. We don't fear them automatically. We judge each individual, not the whole species. Veltor nodded slowly. This is what we have needed. Someone who sees us as people. I support adding humans to the council. I believe they can help bridge the gap between species like mine and the prey species who fear us. Elder Vix looked around the chamber. This is much to consider.
Humanity is not what we thought.
They are predators from a death world who chose cooperation over competition. They are pack hunters who make friends with other predators. They are dangerous but choose to be peaceful. She turned to Danny, Kelvin, and Lisa. You have given us much to think about. The council will discuss this matter. In the meantime, you may return to your studies. But know this, the galaxy is watching humanity now. Show us that a predator species can truly choose peace. As they left the chamber, one of the cubs made a small sound. Danny reached down and gently scratched its head through the carrier's mesh. 3 weeks passed after the council meeting. Life at the academy changed in small but important ways. Students still pointed at Danny when he walked by, but now they also waved and said hello. The fear was being replaced by curiosity. The Karathi cubs had grown bigger. They were now the size of medium dogs and ate constantly. Danny had to get special permission to keep them in his dorm room. They followed him everywhere, crying if he left them behind. At night, they piled onto his bed, leaving barely enough room for him to sleep. Piplo visited every day. At first, she had been terrified of the cubs. But slowly, with Danny's patient encouragement, she learned to be near them without panicking. Now she would sit next to them while doing homework, though her fur still puffed up a bit when they moved suddenly. You are getting braver, Danny told her one evening as they studied together in the common room. I am trying, Piplo replied. Her tiny paws held a data tablet that was almost as big as she was. My instincts still tell me to run, but I remind myself that you would not let them hurt me. You are pack. Pack protects, Danny smiled. That's right. You're part of my pack now. So are they. He gestured to the cubs who were wrestling with each other in the corner. Kelvin walked in with a group of students following him. There were 2 Quilnari, a Delthan, and surprisingly a young Karathi. They all looked nervous but determined. "Hey, Danny," Kelvin said. "We wanted to ask you something. Some of us have been talking. We think humans could help teach us about predator and prey species getting along. Would you be willing to do some kind of class or discussion group?" "Me? I'm not a teacher." "But you know things we don't," said one of the Quilnari students. Her name was Rella. "You understand both sides. You're a predator, but you're also friendly and peaceful. You could help us learn to not be so afraid all the time." The young Karathi, who introduced himself as Kex, added, "And you could help predator species like me understand why prey species are so scared of us. We don't mean to frighten anyone, but we always do. It makes life lonely." Danny looked at the group of hopeful faces. He thought about saying no. He was just a student himself. But then he remembered what Elder Vix had said. The galaxy was watching to see if predator species could choose peace. "Okay," he agreed. "Let's try it. But I'll need help. Lisa, you want to help me organize this?" Lisa, who had been reading nearby, looked up. "Sure, we could do it like a study group. Meet twice a week. Talk about different topics related to predator and prey behavior." "I will come," Piplo said immediately. "Me too," Keck said. Others nodded. Word spread quickly through the academy. By the end of the week, they had 20 students signed up. Half were prey species, half were predators. It was the most mixed group anyone had ever seen voluntarily gathering together. The first meeting was awkward. The prey species sat on one side of the room. The predators sat on the other. Everyone looked uncomfortable. Danny stood at the front with Lisa. One of the cubs sat at his feet. He had brought only one, thinking a whole pack might be too much for the first meeting. "Thanks for coming," Danny started. "I know this feels weird, but that's okay. Weird is where we learn. Let's start with something simple. Let's go around and have everyone say their name and one thing they wish other species understood about them." They went around the circle. The prey species talked about being tired of always being afraid, about wanting to be seen as more than just potential victims, about having their own strength and intelligence that got overlooked because they weren't physically dangerous. The predator species talked about being lonely, about being judged before anyone got to know them, about having feelings and thoughts that were just as complex as anyone else's, but people only saw their teeth and claws. "I think you all have something in common," Lisa observed. "You all want to be seen as individuals, not just as your species type." "But how?" Rella asked. "My instincts are so strong. When I see Kex, my brain screams at me to run. I know he's nice. I know he won't hurt me, but my body doesn't care about that." "That's normal," Danny said. "Instincts are powerful. But humans have instincts too. We have to work against them all the time." "What instincts do humans fight?" Kex asked. Kelvin answered. "Lots of them. Like humans have an instinct to fear anything that looks different. In ancient times, strangers could be dangerous. So humans would be suspicious of anyone who didn't look like their tribe. But we learned that was wrong. We learned to judge people as individuals. It took time and practice, but we did it." "So you're saying we can learn to ignore our instincts?" Piplo asked. "Not ignore," Danny corrected. "Understand them. Acknowledge them. But choose not to let them control you. Your instinct to fear Kex is trying to protect you. Thank your instinct for caring. Then remind yourself that you're safe. Kex is a friend." "That sounds hard," Rella said. "It is hard," Danny agreed. "But worth it. Look, let me show you something." He gestured to the cub at his feet. "When I first saw these cubs, I thought they were cute. But some part of my brain also registered danger. I noticed the claws, the teeth, the way they moved. My human instincts didn't make me afraid, but they made me careful." He picked up the cub, who immediately started purring. "But then I paid attention to their behavior. Baby behavior. Playing, exploring, getting sleepy. I realized they weren't a threat in that moment. My brain updated its information. Now when I see them, I think friend first, not danger." "Can we try something?" Lisa suggested. "What if the prey species students tried to sit next to a predator species student? Just for a few minutes. See how it feels." There was nervous shuffling. Slowly, carefully, Piplo moved from her seat. She walked across the room to where Kex sat. The big Karathi froze, trying not to scare her. Piplo's whole body was shaking, but she sat down next to him. "I am terrified," she said honestly. "I know," Kex replied gently. "Your scent tells me. I'm sorry I scare you. It's not your fault, Piplo said. You are not doing anything wrong. This is my problem. Can I help? Kex asked. Piplo thought about it. Maybe talk to me? Tell me about something normal. Not about hunting or anything scary. Kex nodded. Okay, I really like music. On my homeworld, Karathi sing in groups. We have festivals where hundreds of us sing together under the moons. The sound is beautiful. You sing? Piplo sounded surprised. Yes, low growling songs. They sound scary to most species, but to us they're comforting, like lullabies. Grexians sing too, Piplo said, her shaking starting to calm down a little. High chirping songs. We sing to our babies. They talked about music for several minutes. Other students watched, amazed. Slowly, other prey species students moved to sit with predators. Conversation started carefully at first, then flowed more naturally. Danny watched with satisfaction. This was working. It was small and slow, but it was working. A Quilnari student asked a Karathi about her family. A Delphin asked about what predator homeworlds looked like. A Grexian very carefully reached out and touched a Karathi's paw, marveling at how soft the fur was. This is strange, Keck said to Piplo. No one has ever wanted to just talk to me before. They always avoid me. I am still afraid, Piplo admitted. But you are nice. You are gentle even though you are big and strong. I think maybe we can be friends. If you are patient with me. I can be patient, Kex promised. The meeting lasted 2 hours. By the end, prey and predator species were sitting mixed together. Some were even laughing at shared jokes. The cub had been passed around the group, with everyone getting a chance to pet it under Danny's watchful eye. As students filed out, they were talking excitedly to each other. Plans were being made to meet up again. Study groups were forming. Friendships were beginning. Professor Vexnar had been watching from the doorway. He approached Danny after everyone else left. This is remarkable, the professor said. You are doing what the galactic community has failed to do for thousands of years. You are bringing predator and prey together as equals. It's not just me, Danny said. Everyone here wants this. They're tired of being divided. They just needed someone to show them it was possible. And you learned this on Earth? Vexnar asked. I guess so, Danny replied. Humans have lots of different groups. Different colors, different cultures, different beliefs. We fought about it for a long time. We still do sometimes. But mostly we learned that differences don't have to divide us. They can make us stronger if we let them. The professor clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. The council is watching your progress. There's talk of creating a new program, interspecies cooperation studies. They want humans to lead it. That's a big responsibility, Danny said. You are already doing it, Vexnar pointed out. You are a natural teacher. You help others see past their fears. Danny looked down at the cub who had fallen asleep in his arms. I just want everyone to get along. Life is better when you have friends from all different backgrounds. That's what my parents always taught me. Wise parents, Vexnar said. Your Earth may be a death world, but it produced a species that values life and friendship above all else. That is humanity's true strength. 6 months had passed since the day Professor Vexnar released the cubs in class. The academy looked different now. In the courtyards and common areas, predator and prey species sat together naturally. The old divisions were breaking down slowly but surely. The discussion group that Danny and Lisa started had grown into something much bigger. It was now an official class called Interspecies Relations and Understanding. Over 100 students attended each week. Danny had been made a teaching assistant, which came with a small salary and his own office. The office was tiny, but he liked it. The Karathi cubs were now nearly full grown. They weighed over 100 pounds each and their claws were sharp and dangerous. But they were still gentle with Danny and his friends. They had learned commands in multiple languages and could navigate the academy without causing problems. Other students had stopped being afraid of them. Now they were more like mascots that everyone knew and loved. Danny sat in his office preparing for today's class. There was a knock on the door. He looked up to see Piplo entering with Kex right behind her. The tiny Grexian and the huge Karathi had become best friends, something that would have been impossible half a year ago. Are you ready for the presentation? Piplo asked. She hopped up onto Danny's desk, her small claws clicking on the surface. I think so, Danny replied. Are you too nervous? Very, Kex admitted. Speaking in front of the council is scary. Today was important. The Galactic Council had invited Danny, along with several of his students, to present their work. The council wanted to see if the interspecies relations program could be expanded to other academies across the galaxy. It was a huge opportunity, but also a huge responsibility. Lisa arrived next, carrying a data tablet with her presentation notes. Then came more students, both predator and prey species, all of whom had volunteered to speak to the council about their experiences. They walked together to the council chambers. Danny noticed how natural it looked now. Prey species walking beside predators without fear. Conversations flowing easily between species that had once avoided each other. 6 months ago, this would have been impossible. The council chamber was full. Every seat was occupied. News of the human student who befriended predator cubs had spread across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Elder Vix called the meeting to order. We gathered today to hear about the interspecies relations program at the Academy. Danny Cooper, please begin. Danny stood and walked to the center of the chamber. He felt nervous with so many important beings watching him. But then he felt something brush against his leg. One of the cubs had followed him, offering silent support. Danny smiled and began. 6 months ago, I sat in a classroom and some baby Karathi climbed into my lap. Everyone was surprised because I wasn't afraid. But I was just seeing baby animals that needed comfort. I didn't think it was special. To me, it was normal. He gestured to the students who had come with him. What I learned is that normal is different for everyone. What seems obvious to humans is strange to other species. And what seems obvious to them is strange to us. But different doesn't mean wrong. It just means we have things to learn from each other. Lisa took over. The program we created focuses on understanding, not just tolerance. We don't ask prey species to stop feeling afraid. Fear is a survival instinct. Instead, we teach them to understand where the fear comes from and how to work with it. We teach predator species to understand why they frighten others and how to make others feel safer. Piplo stepped forward. She looked tiny in the huge chamber, but her voice was clear and strong. I am Grexian. My species evolved as prey. 6 months ago, I could not be in the same room as a Karathi without shaking. My instincts told me to run. Every part of my biology screamed danger. She paused and looked at Kex, who stood beside her. Now my best friend is Karathi. I still feel small flutters of fear sometimes. My instincts have not disappeared. But I have learned that Kex is a person, not just a predator. He has dreams and fears just like me. He writes poetry. He misses his family. He cries at sad movies. None of that fits with the scary monster my instincts tell me he is. Kex spoke next. I am Karathi. My species are apex predators. I have known loneliness my entire life. Other species avoid me. They see my claws and teeth and assume I am dangerous. They do not ask about my interests or my thoughts. They just stay away. His voice was sad but also hopeful. The humans taught me that I can be both a predator and a friend. These things are not opposites. Yes, my ancestors were hunters. Yes, I have instincts to chase and fight, but I also have instincts to protect my pack, to care for cubs, to build community. The humans helped me see that the second set of instincts can be stronger if I choose. More students spoke, each sharing their stories. Aquilnari talked about learning to eat lunch with a Karathi without having panic attacks. Adelthan described making a joke that made a predator species laugh and realizing they had humor in common. A young Karathi explained how good it felt to have someone ask about her hobbies instead of just fearing her. When all the students had spoken, Elder Vix looked thoughtful. This is impressive progress, but I must ask the difficult question. Can this work on a larger scale? Your academy is small. You have 3 humans to help bridge the gap between species. Most places do not have humans. Danny had expected this question. You're right. We can't be everywhere, but we don't need to be. The principles we teach can be taught by anyone. It's about choosing to see individuals instead of stereotypes, about acknowledging instincts but not being controlled by them, about giving people a chance to show who they really are. Kelvin added, and honestly, we learned as much as we taught. Humans aren't perfect at this either. We have our own prejudices and fears. Working with all these different species taught us to be better at understanding differences. Veltor, the Karathi Council representative, stood up. I support expanding this program. My people have been isolated for too long. We want to be part of the galactic community as equals, not as beings to be feared. This program offers hope for that future. A Grexian council member spoke next. But is it safe? Encouraging prey species to lower their guard around predators could lead to tragedy. That's not what we teach, Lisa said firmly. We teach awareness, not carelessness. Students learn to read body language and understand intent. They learn the difference between actual danger and instinctive fear. If anything, they become safer because they make better decisions based on real information instead of panic. The council debated for over an hour. Danny and his students answered questions and addressed concerns. Finally, Elder Vix called for a vote. All in favor of expanding the interspecies relations program to 5 additional academies as a trial. Hands, claws, tentacles, and appendages of all types raised around the chamber. The vote was nearly unanimous. The motion passes, Elder Vix announced. Danny Cooper, Lisa Grant, and Kelvin Morris, you will work with selected instructors to train them in your methods. We will evaluate the results after 1 year. As they left the chamber, students and supporters crowded around them. Piplo rode on Danny's shoulder, chattering excitedly about how well it had gone. Kex walked beside them, his tail swishing happily. The cubs bounded around the group, celebrating in their own way. Professor Vexnar approached with clicking mandibles. I am proud of you all. You have changed not just the academy, but potentially the entire galactic community. We just showed people they could be friends, Danny said. That's not revolutionary. That's basic. For humans, perhaps, Vexnar replied. But for the rest of us, it is revolutionary. You come from a world where survival meant being tough and adaptable. You evolved as predators who had to cooperate to survive. This combination made you uniquely suited to bridge the gap between species types. You are predators who chose peace, warriors who chose friendship, Death World survivors who chose compassion. That evening, Danny's friend group gathered in his dorm room to celebrate. The room was packed with beings of all shapes and sizes. Prey species and predator species mixed together freely, sharing food and stories and laughter. Piplo curled up against one of the cubs, no longer afraid. The cub's purring made her drowsy. I never imagined I could feel safe like this, she murmured. You are safe, the cub rumbled. You are Pack. Pack protects always. Danny looked around the room at all his friends. 6 months ago, most of these beings would not have been in the same room together. Now they were laughing and talking like family. Different species, different evolutionary backgrounds, different instincts, but all choosing to be together. Kex was teaching several students a Karathi song. It was low and growling, but somehow beautiful. A group of Grexians tried to join in with their high-chirping voices. The combination was strange, but somehow it worked. Lisa sat with a mixed group discussing philosophy. They were debating whether nature or nurture was more important in determining behavior. Everyone had different opinions based on their species' experiences, but they were listening to each other respectfully. Kelvin was showing pictures of Earth animals to fascinated students. They were amazed by the diversity of life on the human homeworld, especially by the fact that humans had made friends with so many different predators.